She had everything money could buy. But the one thing her heart wanted was forbidden. Evelyn Hart was trapped in a gilded cage, playing the perfect socialite by day, while her soul slowly died behind polite smiles and champagne toasts. Then came Marcus Reed, the quiet driver who saw through her performance, who made her feel alive for the first time in years. But loving him meant losing everything: her family, her fortune, the only identity she'd ever known. When her mother discovered the truth, Evelyn faced an impossible choice: a life of comfort built on lies, or a love so real it could destroy her. What she did next shocked everyone who thought they knew her. If you're watching this, subscribe and tell me where you're from, because this story about courage, forbidden love, and finding yourself will leave you breathless. The morning sun hit the Hart estate like it owned the place. Everything gleamed: the white columns, the marble steps, the cars lined up in the circular driveway. Staff moved through the house like dancers who'd rehearsed their steps 1,000 times. They knew where to walk, what to touch, when to speak. Evelyn Hart stood in the grand foyer, clipboard in hand, watching everything with eyes that missed nothing. At 28, she looked like she'd been born in pearls and pressed linen. Her blonde hair was pulled back so tight it could have given her a headache. Her dress was cream-colored and expensive. Her posture was perfect. She was beautiful in that untouchable way, the kind of beautiful that kept people at a distance. "The flowers need to be moved 3 inches to the left," she said to Maria, one of the younger staff members. Her voice was calm but firm. "And please make sure the champagne glasses are spotless. I saw fingerprints on 2 of them yesterday." "Yes, Miss Hart." Maria nodded quickly and hurried away. Evelyn checked her watch. The charity luncheon would start in 4 hours. Everything had to be perfect. It always had to be perfect. Rosa Alvarez, the estate's house manager, approached with a gentle smile. She'd worked for the Hart family for 15 years and knew Evelyn better than most. "The caterers just arrived. I'll oversee the setup." "Thank you, Rosa." Evelyn's expression softened slightly. Rosa was one of the few people who ever got that from her. "You look tired," Rosa said quietly. "I'm fine." "You always say that." Evelyn glanced at her, then looked away. "Because it's always true." Rosa didn't push. She never did. She just squeezed Evelyn's arm gently and walked toward the kitchen. Evelyn exhaled slowly. She was tired. Tired in a way that sleep never fixed. But admitting it wouldn't change anything, so she didn't bother. The sound of car tires on gravel pulled her attention to the window. A black sedan rolled smoothly up the driveway and stopped near the side entrance. Marcus Reed stepped out. He was 34, tall and lean, with dark skin and quiet eyes that seemed to take everything in without reacting. He wore a simple black suit and moved with the kind of calm confidence that didn't need to announce itself. He'd been driving for the Hart family for 6 months now. Professional, reliable, invisible. Exactly how people like him were supposed to be. Evelyn grabbed her purse and walked outside. Marcus stood by the car, holding the back door open. He nodded once. "Good morning, Miss Hart." She slid into the back seat without looking at him. "The Riverside Club. Don't take the highway, too much traffic." "Yes, ma'am." The door closed softly. Marcus got behind the wheel and pulled away from the estate. The car was spotless inside, smelling faintly of leather and the pine air freshener hanging from the rearview mirror. Classical music played low on the radio. Evelyn stared out the window, her thoughts already at the luncheon. Who would be there? What they'd say? What she'd need to say back? It was all a performance, and she'd been performing her whole life. Marcus glanced at her in the rearview mirror, then back at the road. He didn't speak. He never did, unless she spoke first. That was the rule. They arrived at the Riverside Club 20 minutes later. It was one of those old money places where everything was dark wood and thick carpets, and the waiters moved like ghosts. Evelyn stepped out of the car before Marcus could come around to open her door. She didn't thank him. She didn't even look back. Marcus watched her disappear through the heavy oak doors, then pulled the car into the parking lot to wait. Inside, the luncheon was exactly what Evelyn expected. Round tables covered in white linens, crystal glasses catching the light, women in designer dresses and men in tailored suits, all smiling and laughing and saying things that meant nothing. Her mother, Clara Whitmore, sat at the head table like a queen holding court. At 55, she was still striking. Sharp cheekbones, silver hair styled to perfection, a gaze that could cut through steel. She waved Evelyn over. "There you are, darling. Henry's been asking for you." Henry Caldwell stood as Evelyn approached. 32, handsome in that country club way. Strong jaw, easy smile, the kind of confidence that came from never being told no. He kissed Evelyn's cheek. "You look beautiful," he said. "Thank you." Evelyn sat down, placing her napkin across her lap. "I was just telling your mother about the new development project downtown," Henry continued. "It's going to bring in serious revenue. Of course, we'll need to handle the relocation issue carefully. You know how certain people can be about change." Clara nodded knowingly. "It's always the same. They complain, but they never offer solutions." Evelyn sipped her water and said nothing. "The key is making sure the right people are in charge," Henry said. "People who understand how things work, who know what's best for the community." "Exactly," Clara smiled. "That's why people like us have a responsibility. We have to lead, even when it's difficult." Henry leaned closer to Evelyn. "Speaking of leadership, I heard you're organizing the fall gala. If you need any help with the planning committee, I know some people who'd be perfect, well-connected, the right kind of crowd." Evelyn knew exactly what he meant. The kind of people who looked like them, talked like them, thought like them. "I'll keep that in mind," she said quietly. The lunch stretched on. More talk about investments, property values, who was marrying whom. Evelyn smiled when she was supposed to smile, laughed when she was supposed to laugh. She was good at this. She'd been trained her whole life to be good at this. But somewhere deep inside, in a place she didn't let herself look at too often, she felt empty. When it finally ended, Evelyn walked back to the car. Marcus was waiting, leaning against the driver's side door, scrolling through his phone. He straightened when he saw her and opened the back door. She got in without a word. The drive home was silent. Marcus kept his eyes on the road. Evelyn stared out the window, watching the city blur past. Nice neighborhoods gave way to okay neighborhoods. Okay neighborhoods gave way to rough ones. Then back to nice again. She thought about Henry's words. The right kind of crowd. Her mother's approving nods. The way everyone at that luncheon spoke in code, saying ugly things with polite words. She thought about how easily she'd sat there and let them. "Stop the car." Marcus glanced at her in the mirror. "Ma'am?" "Just stop the car for a minute." He pulled over to the side of the road, confused but obedient. They were on a quiet residential street lined with old trees. The afternoon sun filtered through the leaves, making patterns on the pavement. Evelyn pressed her fingers against her temples. Her head was pounding. "Are you all right, Miss Hart?" Marcus asked carefully. "I'm fine." "Do you need me to—" "I said I'm fine." The words came out sharper than she intended. She saw Marcus's jaw tighten slightly in the mirror. Silence filled the car, heavy and uncomfortable. Then, quietly, Evelyn said, "I'm sorry. That was rude." Marcus didn't respond right away. When he did, his voice was measured. "It's all right." "No, it's not." She exhaled slowly. "I shouldn't have snapped at you." He met her eyes in the rearview mirror for just a moment. There was something in his gaze she couldn't quite read. Not anger, not judgment, something else. "Long day?" he asked. "Long life." The words slipped out before she could stop them. Marcus's expression shifted slightly. Surprise, maybe. Or recognition. Like he understood something he hadn't before. Evelyn looked away, suddenly uncomfortable with her own honesty. "You can drive now." He nodded and pulled back onto the road. They didn't speak again until they reached the estate. Marcus opened her door, and this time Evelyn paused before getting out. She looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time in months. "Thank you," she said, "for the ride." "Of course, Miss Hart." She walked toward the house, but halfway up the steps, she stopped and turned back. Marcus was still standing by the car, watching her with that same unreadable expression. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Evelyn turned and went inside. Marcus got back in the car and drove it around to the staff garage. He sat there for a minute after turning off the engine, thinking about the woman who'd just apologized to him. The woman who looked like she had everything, but admitted she felt like she had nothing. He thought about the luncheon crowd she'd been with. The man who'd kissed her cheek. The way she'd gone silent when they'd talked about certain people. He'd heard it all before. Different words, same meaning. Marcus had been invisible to people like them his whole life, and he'd learned to be okay with that. It was easier than the alternative, but something about today felt different. Something about the way she'd looked at him just now. He shook his head and got out of the car. It didn't matter. She was Evelyn Hart. He was the driver. That's all they'd ever be. That evening, Evelyn sat at dinner with her mother and Henry. The dining room was elegant. Chandelier glittering overhead, fine china on the table, everything arranged just so. The food was excellent. The conversation was excruciating. "The Vanderbilts are hosting their annual gala next month," Clara said. "I told them you'd be attending, Evelyn. With Henry, of course." Henry smiled. "I'm looking forward to it. Should be a great evening." Evelyn pushed food around her plate. "I have a lot of commitments next month. I'm not sure." "You'll make time," Clara said firmly. "The Vanderbilts are important connections, and it's good for people to see you and Henry together." Evelyn's fork paused mid-air. "See us together?" Clara exchanged a meaningful look with Henry. "Well, darling, you're not getting any younger. People are starting to ask questions." "Questions about what?" "About your future. About whether you're serious about building a life with someone." Clara dabbed her mouth with her napkin. "Henry is perfect for you. Everyone can see that." Henry reached over and placed his hand over Evelyn's. "I care about you, Evelyn. I think we make a great team." Evelyn looked down at his hand covering hers. It felt heavy, suffocating. "I need some air," she said suddenly, standing up. "Evelyn," Clara started. "Just a few minutes. Excuse me." She walked quickly through the house and out onto the back terrace. The night air was cool against her skin. She gripped the stone railing and breathed deeply, trying to calm the panic rising in her chest. What was wrong with her? Henry was exactly what she was supposed to want. Successful, charming, from the right family. Her mother approved. Everyone approved. So why did the thought of building a life with him make her feel like she was drowning? She heard footsteps behind her. Rosa appeared carrying a light shawl. "Thought you might be cold," Rosa said gently, draping it over Evelyn's shoulders. "Thank you." Rosa stood beside her, looking out at the dark garden. "You know, when I first started working here, your father was still alive. You were just 13. So serious all the time, even then." Evelyn smiled faintly. "Someone had to be." "You don't have to be everything they want you to be, Maiha." "Yes, I do. That's how this works." Rosa was quiet for a moment. "And what about what you want?" Evelyn didn't answer. She wasn't sure she even knew anymore. The next afternoon, Evelyn stood in her bedroom staring at her closet. She had a dinner to attend, another performance to give, another evening of smiling and nodding and being exactly who everyone expected her to be. She was so tired. Her phone buzzed. A text from Henry. "Looking forward to tonight. I made reservations at Marcello's. Wear something nice." Evelyn stared at the message. He'd made reservations without asking her, told her what to wear, like she was just another detail to arrange. She texted back, "Something came up. Can we reschedule?" His response came quickly. "Evelyn, we've had this planned for a week. My colleagues are expecting us." She put the phone down without responding and sat on the edge of her bed. Through her window, she could see the driveway where Marcus was washing one of the cars. He moved methodically, carefully, his shirt sleeves rolled up against the late afternoon heat. She watched him for a minute, then picked up her phone and called the driver's line. "Yes, Miss Hart?" Marcus answered. "I need you to drive me somewhere tonight, 7 o'clock. "Of course. Where would you like to go?" Evelyn paused. "I'll tell you when we leave." At 7, Marcus pulled the car up to the front entrance. Evelyn came out wearing jeans and a simple sweater, nothing like the designer dress she'd normally wear for an evening out. Marcus noticed, but didn't comment. He opened the door, and she got in. "Where to, Miss Hart?" "Just drive." He glanced at her in the mirror. "Anywhere specific?" "Anywhere that's not here." Marcus pulled away from the estate. He headed toward the city, taking the scenic route along the water. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. They drove in silence for a while, the only sound the soft hum of the engine and the distant music from the radio. Evelyn's phone kept buzzing, Henry calling, then her mother, then Henry again. She turned it off and shoved it in her purse. "Everything all right?" Marcus asked quietly. "I stood someone up for dinner." Ah. He didn't ask who or why. That wasn't his place. "I couldn't do it," Evelyn continued, surprising herself. "I couldn't sit through another dinner pretending to care about things I don't care about. Laughing at things that aren't funny. Being someone I—" She trailed off. Marcus drove carefully, giving her space to continue or not. "Do you ever feel like you're living someone else's life?" she asked. He was quiet for a moment. "Sometimes?" "Yeah." "What do you do about it?" "I remind myself that I get to choose, even when it doesn't feel like it." Evelyn stared out at the water. "What if every choice feels wrong? Then maybe you're not asking yourself the right questions." She looked at him in the mirror, really looked at him. He had kind eyes, thoughtful eyes, the kind of eyes that saw more than they were supposed to. "What's the right question?" she asked. Marcus hesitated, then said, "What do you want? Not what your family wants. Not what's expected. Just you." Evelyn felt something crack open inside her chest. When was the last time someone had asked her that? When was the last time she'd even asked herself? "I don't know," she whispered. They drove past the marina, where boats bobbed gently in their slips. Past the park, where families were packing up from late picnics. past neighborhoods where people sat on porches, talking and laughing like they had nowhere else to be. "Can you keep driving?" Evelyn asked. "I'm not ready to go back yet." "As long as you need, Miss Hart." They wound through the city streets as darkness fell. Eventually, Marcus pulled into a quiet overlook on the east side. The city sprawled below them, lights twinkling like scattered stars. "I used to come here sometimes," he said, "when I needed to think." "It's beautiful." "Yeah." Evelyn opened her door and stepped out. The night air was cool and carried the scent of jasmine from somewhere nearby. Marcus got out too, leaning against the car, a respectful distance away. "Can I ask you something?" Evelyn said. "Sure." "Why do you do this? Drive for families like mine?" Marcus considered the question. "It's honest work, pays well, lets me help my brother with his kids." "But doesn't it bother you? The way we treat you?" He looked at her directly. "You mean like I'm invisible?" Evelyn felt heat rise to her cheeks. "Yes. Sometimes." He was quiet for a moment. "But I learned a long time ago that what other people think of me isn't my problem. I know who I am." "I wish I could say the same." "You can. You just have to decide to." Evelyn wrapped her arms around herself. "It's not that simple. Isn't it? You don't understand. I have responsibilities, expectations, a whole life built on being a certain way." "And is that life making you happy?" The question hit her like a punch. She opened her mouth to answer, then closed it, because the truth was no. The truth was, she couldn't remember the last time she'd felt genuinely happy. The truth was, she felt like she was suffocating in a beautiful prison of her own making. "No," she finally said. "It's not." Marcus nodded slowly. "Then something needs to change." "I don't know how." "Start small. Start honest." They stood there in the darkness, two people from completely different worlds, somehow finding themselves in the same moment of truth. "Thank you," Evelyn said, "for listening, for not judging." "Nothing to judge. You're just trying to figure things out. We all are." She smiled, a real smile, not the practiced one she wore at luncheons and dinners. "Can I tell you something strange?" "Go ahead." "This is the most honest conversation I've had in years." Marcus smiled back, just a little. "Yeah, me too." Something shifted between them then. Something neither of them could name yet. A door opening, a possibility emerging. Evelyn shivered, and Marcus straightened. "We should probably head back. It's getting cold." "Just a few more minutes?" "Sure." They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the city lights blur and shimmer in the distance. For the first time in longer than she could remember, Evelyn felt like she could breathe. When they finally returned to the estate, it was almost 10. Marcus pulled up to the side entrance, the one the staff used, not the grand front doors. "Thank you," Evelyn said before getting out. "Really, for everything." "Any time, Miss Hart." She hesitated, her hand on the door. "Evelyn, you can call me Evelyn." Marcus's eyebrows rose slightly. "I don't think that would be appropriate." "Maybe not, but I'm asking anyway." He studied her face, searching for something. "Okay, Evelyn." The way he said her name, simple and genuine, made her heart do something unexpected. She got out quickly, flustered by her own reaction. "Good night, Marcus." "Good night." She walked into the house, her mind spinning. Rosa was in the kitchen making tea. "You missed quite the commotion," Rosa said. "Your mother and Henry were both calling nonstop. I told them you went to bed early with a headache." Evelyn hugged her suddenly. "Thank you." Rosa hugged her back, confused but accepting. "Where did—" "You really go?" "For a drive. To think." And did you? Think, I mean? Yeah. Evelyn pulled back, smiling faintly. I did. She went upstairs to her room and finally turned her phone back on. 17 missed calls, 10 texts, most from Henry, several from her mother. Henry's last text read, "This is unacceptable, Evelyn. We need to talk tomorrow." Her mother's, "Where were you? Henry is upset. Call me first thing in the morning." Evelyn deleted them all and put the phone on silent. She'd deal with it tomorrow. Tonight, she just wanted to hold on to this feeling, this strange, fragile sense of freedom she'd found in the front seat of a car with a man who saw her as a person, not a performance. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about Marcus, about the way he listened, the way he spoke honestly without cruelty, the way he made her feel like maybe she could be someone different, someone real. It was dangerous, she knew. Dangerous to let herself feel this way. Dangerous to want something, someone, so far outside the boundaries of her carefully constructed life. But lying there in the darkness, she couldn't bring herself to care. The next morning, Evelyn faced the inevitable confrontation. Her mother cornered her over breakfast, her expression icy. "Where were you last night?" "I went for a drive. I wasn't feeling well." "Without telling Henry? Without answering your phone?" "I needed space, Mother." Clara's eyes narrowed. "Space? Evelyn, do you have any idea how embarrassing it was when Henry called me looking for you? His colleagues were waiting at the restaurant. He looked like a fool. I'm sorry he was embarrassed, but I couldn't go." "Couldn't or wouldn't? Does it matter?" "Yes, it matters." Clara's voice rose. "Henry is a good man. He comes from a good family. He can give you the life you deserve, and you treat him like he's nothing." "I never said he was nothing." "Then what's the problem? Why are you being so difficult?" Evelyn set down her coffee cup carefully. "Maybe because I don't love him?" The words hung in the air between them. Clara's face went pale, then red. "Love?" she said scornfully. "You think love matters? Your father and I didn't marry for love. We married because it made sense, because it was right for our families. And we built a good life together." "Were you happy?" Clara blinked. "Happiness is a luxury, Evelyn. Stability is what matters. Security, position. That's not enough for me." "Then you're being a foolish, naive child." Clara stood up, her chair scraping harshly against the floor. "You have until the end of the month to fix things with Henry. After that, people will start talking. And once they start talking, your reputation, and this family's reputation, will suffer. Do you understand?" Evelyn met her mother's glare steadily. "I understand perfectly." Clara swept out of the room, leaving Evelyn alone with her cold coffee and racing heart. She'd never stood up to her mother like that. Never been so direct about her feelings. It felt terrifying. It felt exhilarating. Her phone buzzed. A text from Henry. "We need to talk. I'm coming by at noon." Evelyn sighed and went upstairs to change. She chose her clothes carefully, not to impress, but to armor herself. Simple pants, a fitted blouse, her hair down instead of pulled back. Small acts of rebellion. When she came back downstairs, Marcus was in the driveway. He was checking the oil in one of the cars, his movements precise and practiced. She watched him from the window for a moment, remembering their conversation from the night before. "I know who I am." She wanted that certainty, that peace. Rosa appeared beside her. "You're staring." Evelyn jumped. "What? No, I'm not." "Mm-hmm." Rosa's expression was knowing, but not unkind. "Be careful, mija." "I don't know what you mean." "Yes, you do." Rosa squeezed her shoulder. "Just be careful." Henry arrived promptly at noon. Evelyn met him in the sitting room, where sunlight streamed through tall windows and made everything look deceptively warm. "Evelyn!" He didn't kiss her cheek this time. His jaw was tight with anger. "I think I deserve an explanation. I'm sorry about last night. I should have called." "Yes, you should have. I looked like an idiot in front of my colleagues. Do you have any idea how that felt?" "I imagine it felt awful. I really am sorry." He stared at her. "That's it? That's all you have to say?" "What do you want me to say, Henry?" "I want you to explain why you've been so distant lately. So strange. It's like you're not even here half the time." Evelyn chose her words carefully. "I've been thinking a lot. About my life. About what I want." "And what do you want?" "I don't know yet, but I know I can't keep pretending." "Pretending what?" "That this," she gestured between them, "is what I want." Henry's face went hard. "Your mother said you were being difficult." I didn't believe her. "I'm not being difficult. I'm being honest." "Honest?" He laughed bitterly. "You want honesty? Fine. You're 28 years old, Evelyn. You're not getting any younger. Options don't stay on the table forever." "Is that supposed to be a threat?" "It's reality. I'm offering you a good life, stability, a future. Most women would jump at that." "Then maybe you should find one of them." The words came out before she could stop them. Henry's eyes flashed with fury. "You're making a mistake, a huge mistake." "Maybe, but it's my mistake to make." He stood abruptly. "When you come to your senses, and you will, don't expect me to be waiting." "I won't." He left without another word, the door slamming behind him. Evelyn sat very still, her hands trembling in her lap. She'd just blown up her entire life. Her mother would be furious, their social circle would gossip, everything would change. And somehow, she felt lighter than she had in years. She went to the window and looked out at the driveway. Marcus was closing the hood of the car now, wiping his hands on a cloth. As if sensing her gaze, he looked up. Their eyes met across the distance. He nodded once. Just a simple acknowledgement. She nodded back. And in that small gesture, she felt something bloom in her chest. Something dangerous and terrifying and absolutely real. Hope.